Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
It's Monday, May 20th, 2024. I'm Candace Kelly, sitting in for Roland, who is in sunny California, participating in the 6th annual Anthony Anderson Celebrity Golf Classic. Here's what's coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Sean Diddy Combs apologizes for assaulting his former girlfriend after months of denying the allegations. We're analyzing his apology and the mind of an abuser with a domestic violence expert and a trauma therapist. We'll tell you how Trump wants to shape the legal system by appointing young MAGA judges. A Black father still searching for his son who disappeared in 2021 launches his congressional campaign. A Black Army veteran will receive a multi-million-dollar settlement for police brutality for being beaten by 3 Colorado officers. Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett launches the Crockett Clapback Collection of T-shirts to raise money for Democratic candidates following her viral clash with Georgia Representative Marjorie Greene. And in our Fit, Live, Win segment, an organization is expanding its services to meet the post-Roe v. Wade needs by relaunching its Birth Justice Care Fund. Sister Song's deputy director will give us details about the program. But now it's time to bring in the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on Go, Roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
For months, Sean Diddy Combs denied ever assaulting his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, when she filed a federal lawsuit in November. That lawsuit was settled quickly, and Diddy continued to deny the claims. On December 6, 2023, Diddy posted this on Instagram. Enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character and destroy my reputation and my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. Sean Diddy Combs. Well, Friday, CNN released a 2016 surveillance video showing Diddy viciously attacking Cassie in a hallway of a California hotel. Sunday, he issued this apology.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life, but sometimes you got to do that. I was fucked up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy. Going to rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
All right, a lot to get into. Alma G. Davis is founder and CEO of the Alma Domestic Violence Foundation. She says abusers always apologize when they get caught publicly. She joins us from Atlanta. And therapist C. Anderson says his body language is much louder than his apology and his words. She joins us from Montgomery, Alabama. I want to thank both of you for being with us today. I want to start with you, Alma. What is your take on this apology and how abusers, as you say, normally do? This is par for the course, in your opinion?
Yes. One thing that I found very interesting, if you note, he says more than once that he is apologizing for his behavior on that video. And then he goes to talk about he's responsible for his actions on that video. And it shows that he is only taking accountability for that incident that he has been caught on. Most abusers, that is not their first time. That's their first time being caught. And it shows that he is not fully accountable, number one, because he never apologized to Cassie. He never said, I'm sorry, to Cassie. Number two, why is it just you're limiting your actions to that video? So to me, it was the kind of, I got caught, let me apologize. But there is definitely much work to be done in taking accountability for domestic violence, because normally it's not a first time thing. When it gets to that type of violence, there were a lot of precursors and pre-issues and things that took place well before that incident.
See, I want to go to you. What do you think about the body language? I've seen a lot of posts about how he wanted to make that tear come out, but it just wouldn't happen. What's your take when you read the body language, the apology, and when the two are married together?
So one, it was not an apology. It was a statement. Very different. Apologies take responsibility and accountability, and they mention the specific actions, and they also mention the person that you've harmed. He did none of that. Secondly, his body language was very telling, because I noticed, one, he started out distancing himself from who it was that we're looking at in the video to say, I'm this new person. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you watch his eye movement, his blink rate, the average person has a blink rate of about 16 times a minute. His was about at 25, which could indicate some sort of deception. But what was most telling for me was that the moments where he said, I'm disgusted and I ask for God's grace and mercy, he breaks eye contact with the camera. The camera is us. He breaks eye contact with the camera and he gazes over to his right as if he doesn't even believe what he's saying in that moment himself. So in his attempt trying to convince us that there is some remorse, that he is sorry, that he is actually apologizing, it looks as if he didn't even believe his own words.
I want to go into his mind, Alma. Talk to me about the abuser and what it really takes for a woman or a man to leave a situation that is abusive. Many people will often say, well, if it happened to me, I would be right out of there, but they've never been in that situation. Walk me through what really happens and goes through the minds of someone who wants to get away but cannot.
So it's important to understand that the most dangerous time for someone leaving domestic violence is when they are actually leaving. On a count, it's normally 7 times that a person in that situation, a survivor in that situation, they will leave 7 times and go back before it's finally, I'm done, I've had enough. Because there's so many things that go into play. You got to understand, somebody that is in domestic violence, they've been brainwashed. They have been controlled. There are financial things that have been controlled. It may be children that are in play. It may be animals that are in play that they don't want to leave to get harmed by that abuser. So if you look at the video and you can see it was something that she tried to plan out because she didn't put her shoes on. So that might have been that she was tiptoeing out and didn't want to wake him. She was actually putting her shoes on at the elevator. You can see, which means that that's a rushed decision. So also, one of the things that I noticed was her when she cowered, she tried to, on the second part of the video, I saw like she tried to jump and use the phone. Hopefully she was probably calling for help. When someone, as they are making plans, normally when you're planning to leave, it's a thought out thing, right? Because you have been through a number of abuse. Through our foundation, the Alma Domestic Violence Foundation, like we actually take people through a safety plan, right? So because if you have children involved, making sure your children have a keyword that, hey, if mom or dad uses this word, that means it's time to go. Making sure you have identity, because a lot of times that abuser has taken your identity, whether that's your driver's license, social security card, things of that nature, making sure that you have a second copy, even down to making sure you have a copy of a key. If you are driving a vehicle, making sure you have a safe copy. So this goes to say that when you leave, normally you try to plan it out from some type of a perspective. Other times you're not as fortunate. So for her to get to that, and then she still stayed, because that was in 2016, right? And again, that's the abuse that we saw in 2016. So imagine what took place when continued. If that was 2016, it only gets worse. It doesn't get better.
Right. And I think that's what's interesting in everything that you've pointed out. I mean, there is physical intimidation, there's isolation, there's financial intimidation, the kids, you've got, as you said, pets. There's so many things besides just the physical that we are not seeing. And I want to go to you on this, because I want to talk about the actual footage and that particular body language, because he was very bold in those halls. He knew he was going to be seen. In fact, according to reports, he took care of the video after. What does his body language tell you in that video?
At the center of this video, his behavior demonstrates power and control, because as Alma said, and I also work with victims of domestic violence, but as Alma said, she is sneaking out. She is attempting to leave. So when you see him barrel down the hallway, he is very intent. His intention is to, one, stop and capture her from leaving, getting on the elevator, however she was planning to make her exit. So much so intent that he had on no clothes. He had on no clothes. He came out in a public area where he could be seen, and under any other circumstance, he would probably want to be dressed. But power and control is so intense and so serious that the thought of having this woman, his possession, leave caused him to spring into action with a towel and maybe socks on his body.
Mm-hmm. He did not care. You mentioned power and control. I really want people, if they have not looked at the power and control will of domestic violence out of Duluth, Minnesota, it really breaks down so that people can understand. Because if you haven't been in the situation, you just don't know. What would you say in terms of, and this would be for you, Alma, the process and the number of times often that it takes a woman to really get away? Many false starts, sometimes 8 to 9, for them to get out of that situation.
Right. And like I stated, so most shelters, and they will tell you that it takes people 7 times. That they'll come, leave, go back. And 7 times is on average. One, because it's such a power dynamic, right? And as you think about, most survivors have been isolated, and that abuser has played into that survivor's mind or head of, there's no one there to help you. You're by yourself. So all of these things take place. And then a lot of times when you understand domestic violence, and that the number one reason that people stay in domestic violence is finances, right? A lot of times they've been stripped of finances, so they don't know how they're gonna make it. They don't know how, once they make that exit, how am I going to get to point A to point B? Am I safe? Because that abuser has more than likely told them of all the harmful things they would do, even down to killing them if they ever tried to leave. So it's understandable. We hear so often that people say, well, if this was me, I would have been out of that. But that is a very unfair and unrealistic expectation to put on someone that has gone through domestic violence, because these are layers. It just doesn't happen overnight. There are steps and layers to when you get to this level of abuse. From it could have been verbal. It started as verbal abuse. It could have started as sexual abuse. Small things like even pinching, or demeanoring you verbally, and you thinking it's a joke, is funny. So to get to that type of abuse level is not as easy as it seems.
Here's what Cassie's lawyers, they responded to his apology. What they said was, Combs' most recent statement is more about himself than the many people he has hurt. When Cassie and multiple other women came forward, he denied everything and suggested that his victims were looking for a payday, that he was only compelled to apologize once his repeated denials were proven false, shows his pathetic desperation, and no one will be swayed by his disingenuous words. See, when you look at his apology overall, I think that most people would agree that this hurt him. What is your assessment about what he should have done?
So my assessment of what he should have done was he should have, as we like to call, bombed first. So when this federal complaint was filed, he should have come clean then, right? Because Cassie was very specific in the complaint that she had receipts. And this video, however it came about, is a receipt. There are also other things that have not come out yet, according to what Cassie has said. So if he were truly remorseful, because in his statement video, he says, I went to rehab, I went to therapy. His response when all of the allegations came out were not the response of someone who was active in therapy, becoming accountable, understanding how their behavior has harmed someone. We know that in 12-step programs, part of rehabilitation and recovery is making amends, is coming to grasp with what you've done and what your addiction, whatever that may be, he didn't specify. But whatever that addiction is, part of that is you coming to grips and saying, I've hurt and harmed these people, and whatever is required of me to make that amends, I am willing to do, because I am now turning over a new leaf. One of the things that he said in his statement was very telling. He started it off strategically using what we call convincing statements to convince the people who were listening, watching, and hearing what he was saying that he is a different man. He is no longer the individual that you see in that video in 2016. However, just 4 months ago, his response was vehemently denying what we all were saying. There's a lot of people coming out and saying what's going on. What's really going on, Diddy? And he said, lies, and all of that. That is not the case. So someone who is remorseful says, yes, I did those things. I did those things. I hurt this person in this way. It is not about them. You don't give a self-centered apology.
Right. And how about this? You got to say her name. That would be
gotta say her name.
Right.
He never said, he said, I apologize for my actions.
Mm-hmm.
What actions?
Right.
Going to breakfast this morning, we're confused. Let's be specific, right? He never said, I apologize for violently and viciously attacking Cassie in 2016, blacking her eye, kicking her in the rib, stomping her, and throwing the decorations that were within reach of me at full force at her and imprisoning her. He didn't apologize for those things.
Yeah, he did not say that at all.
It's a type of...
And when you read her lawsuit, it reads like a play-by-play. So listen, we're going to talk about this on the other side of the break. We're going to bring in our esteemed panelists for this evening. So stay with us. You are watching Roland Martin Live, Unfiltered, here on the Black Star Network.
lot of y'all have been asking me about the pocket squares that we have available on our website. You see me rocking the Shibori pocket square right here. It's all about looking different. And look, summertime is coming up. Y'all know, I keep trying to tell fellas, change your look, please. You can't wear athletic shoes every damn wear. So if you're putting on linen suits, if you're putting on some summer suits, have a whole different look. The reason I like this particular pocket square, these Shiboris, because it's sort of like a flower and looks pretty cool here versus the traditional boring silk pocket squares. But also I like being a little different as well. So this is why we have these custom-made feather pocket squares on the website as well. My sister actually designed these after a few years ago. I was in this battle with Steve Harvey at Essence, and I saw this at a St. Jude fundraiser. I saw this feather pocket square, and I said, well, I got some ideas. So I hit her, and she sent me about 30 different ones. And so this completely changes your look. Now, some of you men out there, I had some dudes say, oh, man, I can't wear that. Well, if you ain't got swagger, that's not my problem. But if you're looking for something different to spruce up your look, fellas, ladies, if y'all looking to get your man a good gift, I've run into brothers all across the country with the feather pocket squares saying, see, check mine out. And so it's always good to see them. And so this is what you do. Go to RolandSmartin.com/pocket squares. You can order Shibori pocket squares or the custom-made pocket squares. Now, for the Shiboris, we're out of a lot of the different colors, and I think we're down to about 200 or 300. So you want to get your order in as soon as you can, because here's what happened. I got these several years ago, and the Japanese company signed a deal with another company, and I bought them before they signed that deal, and so I can't get access to any more from the company in Japan that makes them. And so get yours now. So come summertime, when I see y'all at Essence, y'all could be looking fly with the Shibori pocket square or the custom-made pocket square. Again, RolandSmartin.com/pocket squares. Go there now.
Hey, what's up? It's Tammy Roman.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you're watching. Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, we are back talking about Sean Combs, his apology, the body language. I want to bring in my panel, Dr. Omekongo Dibinga, senior lecturer, School of International Service at American University out of D.C. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist and author, also out of D.C., and Georgia State Representative Derek L. Jackson, representing the 68th District in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for being with us, all of you. I want to start with you, Dr. Dibinga. Question for our panelists that we have.
Wow, there is so much I want to ask you all. But first of all, I want to thank you for your tireless work in protecting members of our community. So I'm just going to get to one question. My question is about the enablers and why and what does accountability for enablers, what should that look like? Not only the people around, but I'm also thinking about the Intercontinental Hotel, which let this video be sold or tabled for $50,000, and they also seem to not be held accountable. Could you just speak to that idea of the enablers, please?
So I think when we talk about enabling, we have to first categorize it, right? Because everyone is an enabler for a very different reason. Some people have been taught to mind their business, okay? That's just kind of what they do. And in other circumstances, some people don't know what to do, right? They aren't sure, because anytime you intervene in a power dynamic, you are now putting yourself at risk for the same sort of issue that the victim is experiencing. So you have to be very thoughtful and methodical about the type of support that you want to provide. But what I am hearing, a word on the street, is that the people around Cassie and Diddy during this time, there were people who attempted to help. However, there was one person who attempted and allegedly was held over a balcony. Another person attempted to help and their career was silenced and or squashed, right? So you are going up against somebody that has resources. But then there are some people who, if you see your homeboy or you see your girl smacking their partner,
or being abusive, controlling with their partner, and you don't say anything, we could surmise that you are then part of the issue yourself, right? And that doesn't mean that you physically jump in the middle. That could mean that you say something, you send a text, you make a phone call that makes it easier for law enforcement or for someone who does have the ability to intervene to be around when things are happening.
And I would just like to, I want to add that, so what we need to understand in an everyday society is that this is happening all around us all the time. Every person, human being has someone in their circle that is dealing with domestic violence, whether it is male, whether it's female, whether it is a teenager, dating violence. There is no way that it is the number one issue on college campuses, the number one issue in the LGBTQ plus community, the number one one of the number one issues that we're seeing in elderly abuse, and even now, long-term illnesses, and you don't know anyone. So a part of being an enabler or stop being an enabler is to give help. What I mean by give help, that doesn't mean, like she said, you don't have to be the superhero to jump in, but to let that person going through domestic violence know, hey, when it is safe, here is a number you can call. Here's the Alma Domestic Violence Foundation organization where it might not be safe now, but when you call them, they can help you. They can help you find an escape, find shelter. But that is a part of the enabling. I always say, if you are silent, you're just as guilty as the person being the abuser. And so there's a way to give a voice to someone dealing with domestic violence without having to be the superhero and go in and stop the fight from that angle.
And I'm sure that we will hear more about that hotel, their involvement, and perhaps even charges in regards to covering all of this up. Dr. Malveaux, I want to toss it to you. Question for our guest.
Well, first of all, I want to thank these sisters for the work that they're doing. It's really important for us to stand up against domestic violence. I don't even like the word domestic violence because it kind of makes it less than real violence. These were assaults. These were attacks. Let's not soften it by saying domestic violence. Now, I want to take a minute to think about misogynoir, about the way that Black women in particular are disregarded, disrespected. Malcolm said the most disrespected, he have a long disrespected of all people. And we in our community allow Black men to do this spit because, oh, well, she provokes him. Oh, well, it's okay. I have a colleague, a friend actually, that I grew up with who, anyway, I ain't gonna go there. This boy was whipping her behind on a regular. And I said, I'm calling the police. And she said, but the police are mean to Black men. I'm like, look at all the bruises on your side. I'm not feeling that. We fell out because I did call the police. And she did say that I had overstepped.
Yes.
But this man had beat her with his shod foot on her sock. What the Black community, we tend to be very protective of Black men. I mean, Dorothy Gilliam years ago, or I don't know, one of those sisters, the post, loving our daughters,
and coddling our sons.
How can we break through in our community and say, we Black women do not deserve this nonsense? We will, if anybody ever put their hand on me, I have a thing. I'm like, I belong to two hit school. If you ever hit me, you will next hit 6 feet under.
And Dr. Malveaux, you have expressed your philosophy before on that, I might add. Listen, what is the goal there, or what is the process there to correct what the doctor is saying?
So, Dr. Malveaux, first, thank you for that question, because that is so important, because that in itself is the higher level conversation that has to happen. It makes no sense that we are seeing a video in real time of a woman attempting to flee, and yet people are still having difficulty understanding that she is not the cause of the abuse, and she is not accountable in any way. The abuser is. So to Dr. Malveaux's question, what you are specifically talking about are two things. Zora Neale Hurston said that Black women are the mule of our society, right? So as Black women, we are doubly oppressed because we are not only Black, but we are also female. And we have a long-standing distrust of the law enforcement and judicial system. So we have those barriers in place when it comes to making law enforcement aware, holding Black men accountable. And then we have those intergenerational transmissions, those learned behaviors that say, hey, I don't know what goes on out there, but in this house, this is what we do, and this is how we cope, and this is how we operate. So we learn to protect ourselves, meaning I'm Black and he's a Black male, right? We're not going to go tell the people on him. And so there is this idea that we are protecting Black men from what they can get out here in the judicial system, which is essentially being railroaded. I think that the way that we find an inroad into that is education, because we don't educate our boys, our young men, on why power and control and force and coerciveness, same thing with sexual assault, as to why these things are problematic and inappropriate. We are still raising young boys to think that sex with older women when you're 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 is a rite of passage, is what makes you a man. In that same vein, we are then sending messages that being forceful with your woman, being forceful with your partner, being forceful with the person that you say you love the most is a part of love.
Representative, yes, please go ahead, Alma.
I was going to just add that we as a society, we've normalized the dysfunction of domestic violence. Most abusers were victims first, right? So we see all types of abuse in the household that as a culture, and it's not just women. We deal with males who are victims as well, who are survivors as well, because there are very abusive women as well. But as a culture as a whole, we've normalized it and accepted it. You cannot watch. You can't watch TV and see the violence on TV and don't think that will not roll over in your relationships on what you accept. We have accepted as a society being called out of our name. Even when you talk about being sexualized, things that are very derogatory. And then so when it plays in your personal relationships, it's okay. And we have to, going back to what she said, we have to educate, and we have to have tools. One of the things that we do in the foundation is make sure that you have tools to not repeat the cycle. To first of all, understand that you are in a cycle and understanding how to break that and then how not to repeat that. So I think that's very key and very important to do.
And everything that we were talking about applies to many people who are in middle school and high school who find themselves in violent situations. Let me go to Representative Jackson. Question for our guest.
First off, thank you so much, CE and Alma, and the work that you're doing in this space. But I can't help but to highlight some statistics. 1 in 4 women who are victims of domestic violence. 3 women are murdered by their partners, folks that they know every day. 1 in 6 women who are survived attempted or completed sexual assault. Over 1.3 million women who reported being raped or sexually assaulted. As a father of 4 daughters, my oldest just turned 30, and she looks just like Cassie. What more can we do around laws? It seems like we don't have enough federal and state laws to curtail these statistics. And I just think it's too late after someone like one of my daughters end up dead, right? Mm-hmm. I know what I would do as a father. Lord, y'all gonna have to get me. But what else can we do? Alma, you mentioned tools, but it seemed like, in 2021, I helped co-sponsor a bill around domestic violence to curtail this right here in the state of Georgia. But it seems like the federal laws and state laws is just not enough. I don't know if do we need to add more teeth? Do we need to add more penalties? Do we need to expand the statute of limitations? I'm just as a legislator and as a father, what more can we do to curtail the statistics?
So,
first of all,
I'm sorry, Alma.
I'm sorry. The statistics aren't correct, and let me tell you why. Because only 5% of cases are reported.
Yes.
So when you think about the 95% that do not tell, it's not really 1 in 4 women. It's really 1 in 2. Same as the men. And again, the numbers aren't true because people don't want to talk about it. When we talk about legislation and the laws, just recently in Georgia, last month, we were able to help pass the SB, I think it's SB 83, the stalking law as a part of the whole dating violence TPO fix. And so we have to continuously get in front of lawmakers and have other, like your constituents, help them understand why this is so important. Up until just recently, stalking was not, if you were someone that stalked your victim, you were not penalized the same way unless you put your hands on them, which is unfair to that victim. And I hate using that word, unfair to that survivor. Mm-hmm. And so as I encourage people, take a look at the laws, even down to supporting. I know I was a part of helping Marcy's law pass, making sure that once someone has been arrested, that victim, that survivor is made aware that, hey, this person is getting out of jail. We see so many times when the victim doesn't know, and then they come back and get murdered because they were never notified by the system. So I think it is an all hands on deck thing. The more we become comfortable with having these types of conversations, not just talking about it when it's a Diddy issue, the more that people will become knowledgeable and want to do things and want to make a change.
I agree with everything that Alma said, and I would add that as an individual, you can advocate, and that means making sure that your judges in your municipal court, your judges in your circuit court, the law enforcement in your area takes these kinds of calls and cases seriously. You would be surprised by how many individuals say that, oh, the judge just thought that we were fighting, that it was both of us, right? So judges and lawmakers, I spent a lot of my early years in my clinicals being the liaison between victims and the judge, because I had to let the judges know that when this woman leaves this courtroom, there is nothing standing in between her and that man, or that man and this woman, and he's all scratched up, but there's nothing there, right? And so I think people have to become more knowledgeable of the legislation that does exist so that they can then say, we need this to be implemented and implemented fully, like a protection from abuse order, which is very different from a TPO. It's under the Violence Against Women Act. And it's a federal piece of legislation that says if this protection order is granted, when this person attempts to make contact or breaks the order, essentially, there is mandatory jail time. So being aware of the laws that are in place, particularly in your jurisdiction, and making sure that victims understand that they can advocate that this law be implemented here because this is my circumstance, and not leaving that up to a judge who has 50 cases on the docket and could probably care less about whether or not you're safe when you leave the courtroom.
Because here's another thing that people should know, and this is for both of you and Alma especially, that when we talk about the numbers and people who stop abusing their spouses, that's a very low number. It's like 1 or 2%, correct? That will even make a change. In other words, if you are in a domestic violence situation, it probably will not change. This is not like someone who's addicted to drugs or alcohol, and there's a program that's in place for them to go through, and it's celebrated when people overcome. Mm-hmm. This is very hush-hush territory. Can you walk me, Alma, through some of the practical steps that people should know about if they find themselves in their situation? For example, a restraining order or a temporary restraining order. What should someone know if they want to leave? What will they go through?
Again, a great tool is having a safety plan. So one of the things that you talk about, a temporary restraining order, so many people don't know that they can go after that. But I want to take it back a step further to just talk about some of the things that we teach. And we teach about the red flags, right? All domestic violence situations have red flags that appear. A lot of times we've been trained to ignore those flags, or think we can change that person, or again, it goes back to the number one reason of domestic violence is finances, lack of or control of, and feeling like we have to be with that person and in order to get some type of needs fulfilled. So it's important for people to, one, if you've been in that situation, you gotta seek help. Right? You got to understand what is it that is causing you to continuously go back and address the things that are those different traumas, because there are traumas that have happened to you, and get clarity on what those are and go through a healing process. So I always advise for people who've gone through domestic violence is to seek help, seek professional help. That it is mental. There are mental things that you've gone through, and likewise on the flip side, the abuser. You can't just cold turkey stop unless you have gotten some type of help, because again, you need to know what your triggers are. What has happened to you that has caused you to feel like the only way that you can communicate or deal with someone is by being abusive. So learning healthy skills on how to communicate with people, what's acceptable, what's not. Being called out of your name or demeanored is not acceptable. And it goes back to that's something that we have normalized. Understanding if you're in that situation that there are organizations out there that can help you. I know the abuser normally tells you, okay, no one's listening, no one cares, but there are organizations and the services are free, down to helping you get a TPO. If you need an attorney, services are free. Understanding that most cities have a victims through the prosecutor's office, a victims comp division that will help you, whether that's with your medical bills, whether things of that nature. If you have a TPO in place, or there are things in place showing that you have been abused. So it's important. The number one thing is to let people know that you're not by yourself. And even though you have been isolated or are going through things, that there are sacred organizations that can hear you out and help you get a safe place and get out of that situation.
C, you wanted to add to that?
Sure. I think most have to understand that it's not an easy process, right? This did not happen overnight, and that them finding themselves in that cycle doesn't say anything about them. A lot of times, those who find themselves being a victim will think that it's because I'm weak, I'm this, or I'm that. It does not say anything about you that you have found yourself in that situation. What it does say is that you may have some beliefs about yourself that maybe led you to not leave, or to say, you know what, I'm good. We don't have to go on a second date, right? The guilt and the shame that comes with having someone, the guilt and the shame that comes with having someone demean, degrade, and essentially cut off your agency, your sense of self, your sense of identity, your sense of freedom is very powerful. And many people stay because they believe that they can flip it or turn it around, and they can somehow become what their partner wants them to become. And by doing so, they make everything okay. That will never happen. That person, the person who is harming you, is who they are. They were like that before you came along. Children who grow up witnessing intimate partner violence, or IPV, they have a 50% higher chance of becoming a victim later in their life, or abusing someone, controlling someone later in their life. So just like Alma said, you seeking support, you seeking a licensed professional who understands the nuances of an abuser, because that is going to make the difference in how they support you and how they help you come up with that safety plan, and them understanding how to support you without adding to your victimization and your trauma, because I've seen that happen as well. So find someone who understands specifically domestic violence, who is licensed, who is trained to help you figure out ways for yourself to get stronger so that you're able to withstand when they come back the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time, because that's also a part of the recovery process.
And every state has organizations that will help people that are out there. People will often say, but didn't Cassie have money? Why didn't she get away? She was charting, for goodness sakes. But we don't know who was in control of all of that. As you said, it is all about power and control. Well, speaking of power and control, the people who are in power and control now are the feds, who are working overtime. I would imagine that they are building a case that's looking similar to R. Kelly, but that is just my assessment of all of that. I want to thank both of our guests for being with us today. Alma Davis, founder and CEO of the Alma Domestic Violence Foundation, and C. Anderson, a therapist out of Atlanta. Thank you for allowing us to get into your head to see what was going on really in Sean Combs' head. Good to see you, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, more with headlining news when we come back on Roland Martin Unfiltered, live here on the Black Star Network. Stay with us.
I wanted the people of Baltimore to hear it from me. I have done nothing wrong.
But I see that what you are trying to do is destroy this black woman for doing her job.
I've heard your calls for no justice, no peace. However, your peace is sincerely needed as I work to deliver justice on behalf of Freddie Gray.
Maryland was a force to be reckoned with. I was assuming this is all because of Freddie Gray, but it actually is much deeper than that.
Baltimore's top prosecutor, a woman named Marilyn Mosby, was indicted yesterday in the Eastern District of Maryland for perjury. Couldn't help but think about Donald Trump.
This is what you got to deal with when you are a black woman fighting for just causes in America.
Yeah, but just taking on the police, period. She's stepping on their toes.
They want to cross her out of the system so she can't stand up for the preacher. Reached in the pool and grabbed me and pulled me out.
Imagine if this were you. You would want people to stand in your corner.
I lost my car. I lost my job. I lost my marriage. And I almost lost my mind for a little while.
It's just so much right now, Lord, and I'm just here. Why are you putting all of this on me? I'm about to break.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
It was my junior year at Georgetown, and Spike calls me and he says, Malcolm, what are you doing next year? So, graduating, you know? He said, take a year off, work on Malcolm X. I said, okay.
But first of all, for the folks who don't know, Spike is
my cousin.
Spike is my cousin.
Just for the person watching, like, how the hell is Spike just gonna tell you that it's true? It's true.
Essence Atkins.
Mr. Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching.
You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
If what has happened in the past few years, the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the dismantling of voting rights, is not a sign to vote, maybe this will wake some folks up. While at the NRA annual meeting, Trump openly discussed his strategy of manipulating the federal judiciary to extend his political impact.
Then I called up my people and I said, I have a guy from New York who's an incredible lawyer. He's got the right temperament. He'd be a really great judge. Oh, good, sir. How old is he? I said, he's 69, sir. So he's going to be there for 2, 3, 4 years. We like people in their 30s, so they're there for 50 years or 40 years. We don't want, and as soon as they said that, I realized, yeah, they're exactly right.
Trump's appointment of judges in their 30s to lifetime positions on federal bench has already paid him dividends. Aileen Cannon, a U.S. District Judge for the Southern District of Florida, was just 39 years old when she was appointed in 2020. Cannon is the judge presiding over the classified documents case against Trump, stemming from troves of top-secret documents being uncovered at Mar-a-Lago in 2022 after he left office. She has consistently postponed the trial's start date, almost certainly delaying it until after the 2024 election. You know, Dr. Malva, this is something that we saw coming. He has appointed over 200 judges already, and he is in the process of still continuing to work that particular arena. This should be waking people up.
It should be, but people have never made the connection between the presidency and the Supreme Court. If they had, Hillary Clinton would have won in 2016. I always tell the story that people hate that I tell about a young lady who was a Bennett student who told me she couldn't vote for Hillary because she didn't like her. I'm like, whatever, she's not coming to your house. Years later, like 3, Gorsuch was appointed. Baby girl calls me, she's like, Doc, what are we gonna do? What about our abortion rights? And I said, baby girl, I'm over 60. I don't have abortion rights. What we need to deal with is why you could not vote for someone who was in your corner. So we don't often make the connection. You know, it's like Democrats play checkers and Republicans play chess. And so we basically don't see the long game. This young lady in Florida, this judge who ate about 40, she is dancing to the tune of the dude who brought her. You know, your mama used to say, you got to dance with the dude who brought you. Well, Trump brought her. We're looking at the Supreme Court as well, though. Does the president of the United States get unconditional immunity for everything he does? Now, let's be clear. That man said when he was running, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and never be indicted. Now we see that that's what's happening. So we have to play the long game. All these brothers and sisters who are sitting there, I don't want to vote, what's wrong with them? Do you understand that basically you have set the tone and the stage for the encroachment of your rights? That's literally what is happening. And so I would just say to people, you know, whatever you're thinking, think about the long game. Biden's not perfect. None of us would say he is. But guess what? He's a hell of a lot better than the orange man. And so when you talk about these judges that are being appointed, understand, if that man is allowed to appoint anymore, we could just check our rights at the door, because that's what we're trying to do, and it's unacceptable.
And Representative Jackson Obama would have had more appointments had he not been held up by, Mitch McConnell there. People really need to understand that this really is about the vote that is made. You know, during the speech, he said that he was going to give a judgeship away to someone who was 69 because they had asked. But the people in his camp said, no, you don't want to give it to someone who's about to retire. You have to give it to someone who's in their 30s and their 40s. As a representative for Georgia, how would you explain to someone the importance and value of someone having the right to appoint these judges?
You know, Candace, that's an excellent question. And I certainly agree with Dr. Melvo. As a Democrat, I don't think we do enough on highlighting the judiciary branch. We do an excellent job talking about the legislative branch. We even talk about the executive branch. I think that's how we were programmed. But very seldom we talk about the federal judiciary. And I think we need to do more, because these last 4 years we have watched how the former president had realized that by him talking more about judges and their appointments, I mean, we can clearly see those 3 that he appointed changed Roe, right? They even lied when they were going through the nomination process. They lied. But this is supposed to be the time where we think about the rule of law. think about that for a second, Candace. For as long as I'm 58, and I cannot think of a time we often stated no one is above the law. But we have watched, Candace, that there's one individual, even Richard Nixon didn't quite make it as far as Trump. He has 88 felonies, four indictments. I mean, what more do we need to tell the American public? And I think that's what we're doing here in Georgia. We're outlining that there is a binary, and that binary is, do you want to be led by someone with 88 felonies, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments within 4 years, or do you want to continue on? I get it, because everybody's talking about their age. Everybody's talking about the age, but I prefer to go with someone with 50 years of experience up there at the United States Capitol versus someone that have 88 felonies. No one in the history of this country, Candace, ever had 88 felonies. No one.
No one.
Al Capone, John Gotti, no other white-collar crime could come even close to 88 felonies.
And Dr. Dibinga, as we look day by day at Trump sitting in court, he knows the value of talking about judges on the bench. It seems as though somebody really schooled him beforehand about this particular, about these judgeships and how important it was. He's always taking a stab at judges at any turn that he can. What is your take on Donald Trump and really how he is able to carry this out?
Well, the fact of the matter is that he's a chameleon. He'll switch up at the drop of a dime for anybody. I mean, this guy was for abortion before he was against abortion. I mean, the list goes on and on. He was for TikTok staying before, and then he was against TikTok. Whatever is going to be the most convenient, because his whole life is based on being a transactional president, is what he's going to do to stay in power. We're talking about judgeships right now, but let's also be mindful of the fact that at a dinner or a meeting with members of the oil industry, he basically promised to rewrite or get rid of everything that Biden is doing as it relates to the climate change and renewable energy and all those types of things. And members of that industry right now are actually drafting up executive orders for him to pass on to him. So really, at the end of the day, when you're running against somebody whose main interest is trying to stay out of jail or prison, he's going to promise whatever is going to be the most convenient. And now when he's talking about this whole thing with the judges, I mean, he's talking about rolling back LGBTQ rights as well. And when he was running before, he's like, oh, anybody's welcome in my bathroom. I don't care if you're trans or whatever. So the problem is that many of us, as Dr. Malvo are not seeing this connection with the courts. We're not making that deep connection. It's not just the Supreme Court. You know, at every level, federal judges across this country, and I'm so proud of what Biden has done in terms of the diversity of the people that he's appointing. But once we can solidly understand this connection between the courts and our society and the presidency, we'll start to see some real drastic change. But until we do that, and we just keep going with, oh, I don't like Hillary because I don't like the way she did Obama. Oh, I don't like Obama because he didn't do that. I don't like Biden because my loan ain't canceled yet. Like, as long as we keep having these like petty type of things, Republicans who know that they can't win when everybody votes and it's actually fair and square because their power is shrinking in terms of voting numbers. Until we get that in, they're going to continue to win by division.
And Dr. Malvo, what people really have to understand too is that you might not think this is of concern to you until you need to go to an appeals court, until you find yourself in federal court, and then it really does make a difference.
It absolutely does. And again, the connection has not been made properly. We have not done, you know, in high schools now, very few schools have civics education, which lets people understand what their vote is about. Until we have that kind of knowledge, we're going to have people who don't think the court relates to them until they get arrested, till they get stopped, till they try to appeal, all of those things. And we know how critical these courts are. But what we have seen is the orange man stacking these courts. So as Omakongo says, okay, you're 39, you're 40. You're going to be on that court for another 30 to 40 years. So we're stuck with you. we're stuck with you. And what do we do about that? And, and from my perspective, I'm looking at constitutional revisions. Court appointees should have a term limit, including the Supreme Court, where we have idiots, ass brains, I didn't say that, a black man whose wife is basically fueling January 6th, a white man whose wife is turning flags upside down, to say she stands with the January 6th people. Understand what's going on. What is going on is that people are saying they want to take this country back. Roland has written about it brilliantly in his book, White Fear. We all see it. And the problem is that they're smarter than us. Or at least they're actuating more than us. They're smarter than us. They're looking at the long game. We're playing the short game. They're basically saying, let's stack the courts. We're saying, we're going to have a protest. Well, the protest ought to be a legal protest, and this stuff is simply wrong.
All right.
Simply wrong.
All right, thank you for that. We were going to end on that particular note before we take a break and move on. Roland Martin Unfiltered will be right back here on the Black Star Network.
First, President Barack Obama's road to the White House. We got about 500 copies of the book available. And so this actually is all of the coverage of the 2008 election. But the other thing is this here. I talked to folks like Malik Yoba, Hill Harper, Erica Alexander, Kevin Lau, Spike Lee, Tatiana Ali. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff in here as well, where I talked about some of the stuff that went down at CNN. Also, when you go through here, a lot of the photos that you see in here, photos that I actually shot, photos that were my time at CNN. And so what I decided to do, because one, I published the book and I own it myself, is that so I said, you know what, I'm going to slash the price to $10. I'm not reprinting the book. So once we are sold out of these 500, that's it. They're gone. So you can go to RolandSMartin.com/the-first to get a copy of this book. Everybody who orders this book through the website, not on Amazon, only through RolandSMartin.com. I will personally autograph and mail you a copy of this book. It's all of the coverage, the actual interviews that I did with him. And just to show you, of course, when it came out, there's actually even in here the interviews that I did with him and Michelle Obama, which won TV One cable networks its first 2 NAACP Image Awards. And so all of that for $10, go to RolandSMartin.com the first and order your copy today.
Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated.
Trump was a failure on healthcare.
Hundreds of thousands of Black Americans lost healthcare insurance. That is outrageous.
And if he's president again, he would cancel insurance for millions more of us.
We cannot go back. President Biden and Vice President Harris have lowered health care premiums and expanded coverage for Black families. They also capped the price of insulin at $35. Joe Biden is getting the job done for people just like me.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Coles.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
Yo, it's your man Deion Cole from Blackish, and you watch
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Nakia Dixon has been missing from Springfield, Massachusetts since February 26, 2024. The 16-year-old is 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighs 135 pounds, and has black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about Nakia Dixon should call the Springfield, Massachusetts Police Department at 413-787-6300. All right, my next guest's son disappeared, and that is fueling his congressional campaign. Daniel Robinson disappeared on June 23, 2021. Even though Daniel is still missing, his father, David Robinson II, has not given up. The obstacles he faced to find his son motivated his South Carolina Congressional District 2 candidacy, and he joins us now. Thank you so much for being with us today. I know that, yes, indeed. I know that this still must be a very difficult time, but As I said, it has fueled you to where you are now, putting you on this trajectory. What is it that you want people to know about your bid, especially as it relates to missing persons, and what you have learned along this way?
Yes, thank you again for having me on. Yes, my bid to run for Congress, it started with my efforts to find my son, to bring light into the overall missing person cases in this country, specifically Americans of color. We definitely have a disproportionate rate of going missing in this country. Just for example, in 2002, we had 193,000 Black Americans that went missing, that reported to be missing, and which is about, we are just only 35% of the population out of the 550,000 that went missing that year. That is very devastating. It's something that's not being put out into the mainstream as much, and as well as my son, he's part of that number. He's part of that statistics. My aim is to make sure that I'm doing everything I can. I became very passionate when it comes to missing Americans in total, but also bringing that awareness of the disparities that's in the system when it comes to handling missing persons of color, specifically. Also, like I said, the data that we can receive as a family is often missing in that also in that element of trying to find missing loved ones. Those things need to be freed up. I have been working tirelessly to find my son, and doing so, I was able to talk to senators and legislators on how to get this job done. It's been lacking on their point, so I'm going on the other end to make sure I do it myself.
And as part of your platform, I'm sure that there are roadblocks that you want to unblock. What can you share with us in terms of some of the things that you encountered that you want to see fixed?
Yes, it's my son's case, for example. Families, the first thing we ask for is cell phone ping data. It's a common sense ask when it comes to, and it's crucial point of finding your loved one. Oftentimes, law enforcement are blocked because they say, hey, if it's not a criminal case without evidence, they would not be able to get a warrant. These telecommunicators can hide behind that not having a warrant when those data that they collect, the cell phone ping data, for instance, are the property of the person who's paying that monthly bill. So I want to make sure that we are freeing up that data for Americans and families that can get that data in real time. Law enforcement can get that data really quickly. That's a crucial point, because we all know that time is the essence when it comes to missing loved ones.
And what do you want people to know in particular about your campaign? Certainly, your platform, you want to change what happens in terms of missing persons. And what else do you want to tell your potential voters?
Well, I'm also a veteran. I'm a veteran who fought for this country. I'm retired. I have raised my right hand to protect this democracy, to protect our way of life. We see that our democracy is being mantled in real lifetime. Our basic rights are being attacked. So I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can. Where I raise my right hand is something that you do for the rest of your life. I want to make sure that I'm definitely fighting for our rights. Also, the fact that, in my district in South Carolina, we have a representative that's not representing every community. We have communities of color that's going lacking. You can go one side of the same district and can see that one side of that district is doing well, where the other district, part of that district, is not doing so well. I want to make sure that I'm representing every American, every citizen in my district, bringing opportunities to everyone in my community.
And speaking of everyone in your community, before we go to the panel, the pictures and the video that I saw when your son did go missing, everyone in the community really did step up. I saw a lot of people, and you were very pleased about everyone from across different races and ages that did show up to help you find your son.
Yes, it's amazing. That's one of the things that was very crucial for me, being out there in that desert and seeing people from all walks of life. I mean, from every state, you can name it. We all got together. Nobody cared what the color was, your political ideologies, religions, you name it. We came as Americans. I saw Americans doing what was done, can be done if we work together, and that's is to find a missing black geologist, a scientist, a brilliant scientist who contribute to this whole country to make this country better. And I've seen that. And it's been a big push for me to do everything I can to help others.
I'm sure a lot of people are encouraged by everything that you're doing. I want to open up the panel here. Dr. Dibinga, a question.
Yes, Mr. Robinson, first of all, my heart continues to go out to you and your family. I remember the story from when it first started to air, and so we're always thinking of you. I want to know, have you seen any improvements in our society in terms of how missing people are treated once you started these endeavors?
Well, as I said, when it comes to the disparities, we haven't seen much of a change at all. But I can be pleased to hear about for instance, the Billy law that helps kind of coordinate some of the things when it comes to missing Americans, to find, data, coordinate the data where we can free up some of this unidentified Americans that's sitting in these morgues and things like that. So that is very crucial to helping find missing loved ones. However, it's not helping Americans in real time, like I was just speaking about a while ago. I just want to make sure I'm doing everything I can to help. It'll go far enough so to help Americans get things done quickly and efficiently. Representative Jackson.
First off, my heart goes out to you as well, David. I recall when Daniel went missing, and we received that information right here in Georgia. It was on our local news. My question for you, David, is this. As a elected official and how you campaign, there is a fine line or balance, if you will, not to, politicize your son's, missing and running for office. How do you square those two, want to make a change in this space? Because when a black person goes missing, the response is very different than compared to when a white person go missing. And so how do you square those two as you continue to seek the 2nd Congressional District office?
Well, yes. Thank you so much for that question. The way I square that is the fact that, my son is part of that statistics of the 40% of Americans that go missing. To square that is to make sure I'm doing everything that every American, no matter what your race is, receiving some of those data that I've been speaking for instance, because it would help. It would help in my son's case, in the future. It may not help today as it stands, but once legislations are passed, things that I want to be working on, let's, God forbid, my son is missing that length of time, God forbid, I'm able to get those data that exist, for instance, and things like that. So one thing for sure, it will help many Americans. I want to make sure that I'm pointing out into my district, because it don't just affect my family, it affects every American in this country. In my district, in South Carolina, we have over 270 that has already gone missing this year, and that number is expected to climb. That's something that happens every year. So I got to make sure I put out the message that it's not just a problem for the Robinson family. It's an American problem. It's an American crisis. Just above, it's been going longer than the opioid crisis, for instance, that we have in this country. So we want to make sure I highlight those and make sure that's part of my platform to let people know that, hey, look, this same thing happened to me. It can happen to another family. It happens every day as we're speaking. I want to make sure I bring that to attention.
All right. Dr. Malveaux.
Mr. Robinson, first of all, thank you for sharing, for being so transparent, and for especially what's happening with your son. I want to encourage people to go onto your website. It's really important because you list all the things that you wish to do as an elected official. The thing that I'd like to highlight is what you say about your district, the 2nd District in South Carolina. You say that you want to see everyone have the same service. Take a minute to share with us what some of the disparities are in the district that you seek to represent.
Well, yes, thank you so much again. I'm using an example. When I grew up in high school, I did very well in school. A lot of students are doing very well also. But when I was in school, I did very well, making great grades. But however, I had to change the school into a different district. Though I'm in the same district as to another school in the same district, I apologize. But when I had to change school and go to a different school, I found out I was lacking. I was behind. So what I found is they didn't put money into our district or outside of town, the Black community. Those schools were lacking funding, where we were getting hand-me-down books, for instance. So those things are problematic, what I see in my district. Also, the fact that some companies, we go to every store in our block, where they're owned by different people that take that money outside of our community and put it in other communities. They get incentives to build business in certain communities, and those communities not doing well. We look at the infrastructure in one side of the district and look at the infrastructure on another side of the district. The road projects are being hampered and things like that. The funding is not getting there fast. There's not policies there to push those construction companies, have you, to do the job on a timely manner when they're bidding for those jobs. So it's things like that I see in my district that I want to change, where the district, the communities in my neighborhood is not the only person that I'm representing. I'm representing all the communities that is not in my neighborhood as well.
David, I think it's really important to point out the fact that your son and how he was presented to the media really made a difference. I'm not sure if you got ahead of that, but we have the young Black man with the nice pictures who's a geologist. All of that translates into what the media will and will not pick up. I was wondering if you had anything to say about the media, their role, and the shaping that unfortunately has to go on in order for anybody to pay attention.
Yes, I sure can. The Petito families, I'll use that example. Are very good friends of mine now, and they don't mind. But the thing is, just like in the example of the Petito case, they call it white woman syndrome, where they use an example where the coverage is a lot more when it's a white woman with blonde hair, blue eyes, have the image of someone who's whether they're on the podcast or doing something very well. Those things that get a lot of coverage and immediate coverage. I had to work for 3 months for Daniel. I had to work 3 months really hard, and what I did is, like you said, highlight the things that my son is. He's a brilliant scientist. He's loved by his family, despite of some of the stereotypes that may be out there. He's loved by his father. He has a father in his life. I just wanted to make sure I was ahead of that as well when I put the story out about my son. I built the website, pleasehelpfinddaniel.com, to reflect that, to give people a place to go and see this family dynamics, how my son is important, how brilliant he is, what he did in school, for instance, those type things. So those are very important areas to bring that. Despite all of that, it took 3 months, though, So again, it takes a lot. Like I tell my children, sometimes we have to go 3 times as hard, but it's worth the job to get my son's story out there.
And before we let you go, I just wanted to know, obviously, this is a huge impact on your life, but I know that someone in your position, not everybody is in that position, the time. I'm wondering what toll has this taken on your family and your life, your work situation, and how have you been able to balance all of that?
Oh, yes, it's very hard. It's very hard. I had to spend over 2 years just nonstop searching for my son out there in the desert. We did 49 weeks, 35,000 acres of land. It hurts the family. It hurts the family because every day, we don't have answers. We are finding other human remains, but thank God we haven't found Daniel in that situation. But it's just the fact that we don't have those answers. It tears the family apart. When we had our dynamics have changed a lot. We're missing someone. We have dinners, for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, for you name it, and Daniel's not there. It changes the outlooks of everything in our family. We have to readjust. So it's taking time. It's taking time, but we're working on it. All right. David Robinson, thank you so much for being with us today, sharing your story.
We are here for you, Roland Martin Unfiltered. When it comes to media, we know sometimes that attention trickles off. Thank you so much for sharing, and good luck in your candidacy out there.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Next on Get Wealthy, with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, women of color are starting 90% of the businesses in this country. That's the good news. The bad news, as a rule, we're not making nearly as much as everyone else. But joining us on the next Get Wealthy episode is Betty Hines. She's a business strategist, and she's showing women how to elevate other women.
I don't like to say this openly, but we're getting better at it. Women struggle with collaborating with each other. And for that reason, one of the things that I demonstrate in the sessions that I have is that you can go further together if you collaborate.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Dr. Gerald Horne, a man regarded by many as the most important historian of our time. He provides us a history lesson I'm betting you've never heard before.
Texas enslavers who planned to continue the conflict even after Appomattox, even after the formal surrender of Robert E. Lee.
Dr. Horne talks about his new book, The Counter-Revolution of 1836, Texas, Slavery, and Jim Crow, and the Roots of U.S. Fascism. You do not want to miss this conversation. Only on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Franklin. It is always a pleasure to be in the house. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
The City Council in Colorado Springs City, Colorado, voted to pay a black veteran who was punched and kicked by Colorado Springs officers during a 2022 traffic stop. Council members voted 7-1 to approve a $2.1 million settlement related to Dalvin Gadsden's vicious October 9th, 2022 beating that happened after 3 Colorado Springs officers pulled him over for, quote, improper display of a license plate. Now, body cam footage shows multiple officers punching and kicking Gadsden, which caused damage to his eye and injured his eardrum. Gadsden was charged with 2 counts of second-degree assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, obstructing a peace officer, driving under the influence, and driving without license plates. He pled guilty to improperly displaying the license plates on his car and paid a $15 fine. All of the other charges were dismissed. Dr. Malveaux, we are not surprised, are we?
We're not even slightly surprised. This happens time and time again. The people of Colorado Springs got hoodwinked by the police officers. They will pay for this money in their taxes. And this is the thing that we need for people to understand. When your police officers go rogue, beat someone, we hear about the settlement. What you don't hear is how much that's going to cost you. And so this, I mean, you had their license plates displayed improperly. That's why there's so many people who are saying, we don't stop people for these minor road incidents. They could have taken a picture of that. They could have sent it to him, as we do here in D.C. I get this every now and then. I'm speeding. They send me a little note saying you were speeding and you have to pay, and you pay. So why not do it that way as opposed to having the personal interaction, which essentially fuels white ignorance? Look at that, white ignorance. People in Colorado Springs are going to pay for that.
Dr. Dibinga, these officers were not charged.
And I'm not surprised by that at all. All of this, and we end up with a $15 fine. And look, this actually connects to our prior segment as relates to Trump, because one of the things that's also disappeared from any news coverage that I've seen is coverage about the George Floyd police reform bill. that Biden has been pushing and that other members of Congress have been pushing, like that's a real thing where you have Trump who is out there saying that police deserve immunity basically 100% of the time. Situations like this that continue to happen are reasons why we need to have that police reform bill. And so when we talked about the courts and all of these other types of issues, if Trump comes back in, you're going to continue to see situations like this. You're going to continue to see officers not be charged. You're going to continue to see officers being more emboldened, despite the fact that they have security cameras on and dash cams and all of these other types of things, emboldened to do that because they feel like they are representing their president. The fact of the matter is, this country has become so militarized, actually, since the murder of George Floyd. People thought it was going to become less so, but we can't really tell in this country where the local police end and the military begins. We've become more militarized, and it's only going to get worse. These types of stories have to be made public. These types of officers, when they're brought up on, if there's any type of settlement, they need to be fined themselves in terms of the money not coming out of taxpayers' dollars, as Dr. Malvo said, and they need to be fired and not be able to just go right down the street and be hired somewhere else. And these are things that are looked at in the George Floyd police reform bill, and that's yet another reason why we need to get out in 2024, because I don't know any black people who haven't been touched by police brutality and misconduct in some way, shape, or form.
So as a lawmaker, or Representative Jackson, I mean, this is exhausting. It's exhausting for people out here. Certainly it's got to be exhausting for you. What would you say is something more that can be done? I mean, we hear about these situations all the time. Sure, he got $2 million, but how do we get to the point where it is just not happening to begin with? We've got the video cameras. That doesn't stop people. What can be done?
You know, Candace, it is exhausting. And as we talk about this police brutality, I would like to remind Roland Martin Unfiltered audience that Michael Brown would have turned 28 today. 28. 10 years ago, Michael Brown was killed by a police officer. But we also have to ask ourselves, how did we get here? And there were laws that were put in place that created this climate, this environment. Let us go back to 1850. You all remember the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, when a sheriff can deputize a citizen to go and hunt down a slave and bring them back dead or alive. How far back they want to go. And so if the laws of the past created this climate, we're going to need laws of the present to change this climate. So yes, we do need the George Floyd. Yes, it is exhausting. Yes, we're tired of the candlelight visuals and the hashtags. How many more have to die? Just like a few weeks, last week, we buried a airman, an airman serving his country. So my question is, Candace, we had a military young man, 23 years of age, protect and serve our country. But who protects and serve him? Who protects and serves someone like a Michael Brown, a Fortson, a George Floyd? And so that's the reason why we need these laws, because these laws of the past created the climates of today.
Is there momentum, Representative Jackson, when we talk about the George Floyd Justice Act? What is your take on where that is and other laws that might be on the table that people want to see passed?
And this is where, great question, this is where accountability comes in at, right? We had this conversation almost 4 years ago, right here in Georgia in 2020. And we then asked the candidate, when he came through here, now President Biden, about the George Floyd Act. And because that's when George Floyd was killed 4 years ago. And so there was a lot of energy around it. And the promise was made, and we delivered 2 United States senators to position the White House for the George Floyd Act, and it wasn't done. And so we got to make sure that after the election is done, that we continue on this sense of energy, because individuals that look like us, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, I mean, the names go on. Eric Gardner. I mean, the names continue, Candace. So we want these names to stop. We want the hashtag to stop. We want the candlelight visuals to stop. And we need tough laws to make sure police do not have police immunity, so that would change the climate for all 50 United States.
All right, this conversation continues. Roland Martin Unfiltered will be right back here on the Black Star Network. Stay with us.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Staying balanced is tough enough with the normal day-to-day stuff going on. But what happens when we get the unexpected? It may come crashing down through a bad diagnosis for either you or a loved one.
My son, he actually was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it came out of a very challenging time in my life. I had a lot going on with starting a new business.
How to cope and even stay balanced when even the walls are crashing in. That's on a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Marissa Mitchell, a news anchor at Fox 5 DC. Hey, what's up? It's Tammy Roman, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Oh, I love us. I love how we can just take things and make them benefit us. That's exactly what Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is doing after the bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body comment that went viral on Thursday. All right, so Crockett, she filed a trademark application for rights to the alliterative insult at Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene during a heated House Oversight Committee session. Now, Crockett posted this statement on social media. So we're going to drop a Crockett Clapback Collection. This collection will feature various swag that includes random things I've said. The money will go to ensuring that we have a Democratic House. Give me a little time, really get some swag online, etc. But B6 will drop first. Since Thursday, many songs have been circulating on social media, helping the phrase reach viral status. If you didn't hear it Friday, here's the RMU version.
Bad bill frame, bad bill frame. Bleach blonde bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game. Bleach blonde bush, bad bill shame, bad bill shame. Whole lot of front, whole lot of front, all in my lane. Bleach blonde bush, bleach blonde bush, bleach blonde bush, bad bill frame, bad bill frame. Bleach blonde bush, bleach blonde bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game.
And it's getting picked up by other genres.
It's been a while since I wrote a song, but there was no way I could let this one slip past me. She's a bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body, swinging for the fences, good God Almighty. A heat-seeking missile, too scared to debate, cries like a baby when she don't get her way. Yeah, she can dish it out, but she sure can't take it. Her whole damn life, she just fakes it to make it. Nobody cares what she has to say. Some new eyelashes wouldn't help her anyway, 'cause she's a bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body, swinging for the fences, good God Almighty. A heat-seeking missile, too scared to debate, cries like a baby when she can't get her way. Yeah, she's out there pushing their propaganda. Can't get it done, just blame it on Brandon. She loves to talk tough, throw around her weight. Oh, baby girl, don't even play, 'cause you're a bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body, swinging for the fences, good God Almighty. A heat-seeking missile, too scared to debate, and cries like a baby when she can't get her way. Yeah, she cries like a baby when she don't get her way.
All right, everyone's in on it, and it looks like this one right here could be a hit for the summer.
Bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body. Bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body. Bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body. Butch body, butch body, butch body.
All right, and this is the latest one.
She's a bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body. She's a bleach blonde, bad-built, butch body.
Representative Jackson, I saw you. You're the one moving your head the most. We're going to start with you. Plus, these are your people. Talk to me a little bit about your take on what we are seeing going on here and how you feel about this line of T-shirts coming out.
Well, first off, I appreciate Representative Crockett with the clapback. You know, you just find it amazing, Candace, where we have a certain level of decorum that's expected to do the work of the people. And when you find your colleagues while you're trying to do the work of the people, during a committee hearing, mind you, cameras are rolling. When you have a colleague to simply try to attack you verbally, and it just broke all kind of decorum. It broke all kind of Robert rules. It just broke everything. And so I know there's a sentiment out there where they want to, you know, use the Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. But I appreciate Representative Crockett going right where Marjorie Taylor Greene is. And we mentioned this earlier, but it's worth repeating. You know, as a father of 4 daughters and 3 sons, but I just want to focus on my 4 girls. And Malcolm X said May 22nd in 1962, he said, the most disrespected person in America is a Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is a Black woman. The most neglected person in America is a Black woman. And so I appreciate Representative Crockett standing up for herself at the time where she needed to stand up and say, enough is enough. And so I appreciate that clapback. And as a duly elected official, it was the right thing to do. I support it. And I will be buying my 6B's T-shirt for the summer.
Oh, she will make some money and raise it for the cause. Dr. Malval, I was looking at you. I'm not sure how to read your facial expressions. What are your thoughts about this T-shirt line, the clapback, and just this moment?
Well, first of all, I would have added another B up in there, because there needs to be another B up in there. Y'all know what the B was. Secondly, you know, I was in San Francisco over the weekend supporting London Breed, who is the mayor of San Francisco. And what occurred to me and what I said is that misogynoir means that Black women can be attacked at the top for our credentials, at the bottom for our eyelashes. People will attack us wherever we are. Thank brother for quote Malcolm about us being the least respected, unprotected, etc. But I'm just sitting here saying, I'm so glad I'm not a member of Congress, because I would have walked over there and smacked that woman in the next week. It was ridiculous. It was absurd. It was unnecessary. And we don't deserve that. But we're in a space right now where Black women, whether you're Dr. Claudine Gay, whether you are Summer Lee, the sister from Pennsylvania, sisters are being attacked. And we have to be ready to fight back, to clap back. And so I'm loving Jasmine Crockett. I guess, first of all, nobody can ever tell what's going on with the look on my face, so don't try. You never know what's going on. But I appreciate her. But I'm also angry at the many ways that Black women are being assaulted. I am 70 years old. I've been out there. I think I published my first piece when I was 15 in the Journal of Black Poetry. And I've seen a lot of stuff. And what I'm seeing that hurts me so much is that so much has not changed. What if she talked about a Jewish woman or what her white colleagues? That would not have gone down. But everybody feels free to attack a Black woman, and I'm saying, oh, hell no.
Dr. Dibinga, I think it was interesting just to watch everything. AOC jumped in, and then there were phrases. One guy had a hearing aid. He couldn't hear everything, and I'm not sure if he could hear everything, if he could really understand the sentiment. What was your takeaway from everything that went on, and what are your thoughts about this T-shirt line?
Okay, so I have a little bit of a different take. There's a lot of this that I'm just not feeling. And I feel like there's some bigger implications that are being missed. I think I agree with Dr. Malveaux. Representative Crockett has every right to defend herself and clap back when people are coming at her, and the way that Black women are attacked. I mean, come on. So I'm with that. I'm with AOC, coming back as well. And that has to be happening. You do have to stand up to bullies. My larger concern is that when Greene drops these things, she fundraises off of it. Now people with the clapback, they fundraise off of it. People in Marjorie Taylor Greene's camp are paying no attention to any of this whatsoever because she's in a safe district. So, she's just raising money as well. Representative Crockett's like, are we raising money for, like she said, to promote the election and get out, hopefully, raise money for Democrats and so on and so forth. But I feel like the level of decorum has just stooped so low. And I just feel like we don't need to continually go down that level. Someone has to bring the energy up. Somebody has to bring the tone up. Somebody has to bring the level of decorum up. And I feel like you can do that and still respond in a way that shows that you're not going to be bullied in any way, shape, or form. But the fact of the matter is, our camps are not listening to MTG, and MTG's camps not listening to us. And so it just further puts people in their silos. I think that we also need to be mindful of not going down this rabbit hole of body shaming, not as relates to MTG, but just the idea of butch itself and the negative connotation that it has in our society overall. I'm not talking about MTG, but just in general. I don't know. That's not a shirt that I would be wearing, and so I feel like there are some better things that we could be doing, but I absolutely am all about Black women being able to defend themselves in a society where people are coming for them. But someone at some point has to be part of the group of people that's going to bring decorum back to that house. That's going to make people interested and want to run again and be representatives and the like. And I don't really see that happening right now. And that's the part of it that's disappointing. But I support Jasmine Crockett all the way, no doubt about it.
Yeah, Representative Jackson, I want to go back to you. It's tough being on that floor, all those cameras rolling, and you know what you've dealt with day to day with people when they're not on cameras. Being in that moment, do you think that you kind of maybe act a little different, being in that political venue as opposed to being someplace else? Does it make it different that you are playing a tough game, and maybe that's why she responded that way? Or how do you feel about what Dr. Dibinga said?
Yeah, no, I respect Dr. Dibinga, but the reality is when the camera's not rolling, it's even worse. It's worse, Candace. And so there was some history there. And if you had the opportunity here, Representative Crockett, in the last 24 hours, she's shared some of that history. It's been brewing for quite some time. But our constituents also, Dr. Dibinga, also hold us accountable for not showing up and fighting back for Michelle Obama. When they attacked Michelle Obama, how she looked, and right now how they're attacking Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? And so we're sort of stuck in the middle where our constituents are asking us, hey, you all need to stand up for our Black women who are being attacked in the media. And so, yeah, I'm all for it because in hindsight of 2020, we should have did more to stand up for Michelle Obama when they were referring to her as a primate. Y'all remember they put her on a cover, right? The big afro, right? There was not enough energy coming from our community to stand up for Michelle Obama. And now they're attacking Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first. So, yeah, it is exhausting, Candace. And I think we do need to clap back. We still can maintain our level of professionalism. We still can maintain the decorum as we see fit. But when the camera's not rolling, y'all, it is worse. And it gets tight and it gets tense when we are in these rooms debating over legislation going back and forth.
Yeah, and as we saw, hey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was the first one to go after somebody's looks and eyelashes. I'm not saying that everything is fair game, but she certainly opened up that door, and someone walked right in, then slammed it after. All right, listen, we're going to come back after the break. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Stay with us.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next-generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
It's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
This is your boy, Earthquake.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
As Vice President Kamala Harris continues her reproductive freedom tour, organizations are doing what they can to help women in states that have made it nearly impossible to get an abortion. Sister Song, Women of Color Reproductive Justice Collective, is relaunching its Birth Justice Care Fund. The fund, created in 2020, was a response to how the pandemic and maternal mortality epidemic disproportionately impacted Black and brown communities. Now services are expanding to meet the post-Roe v. Wade reality. Sister Song's Deputy Director, Leah Jones, is here to explain the services that they offer, and she joins us from Atlanta. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Candace, for having me.
Now, for people who don't understand kind of the holes that you are trying to fill, how would you say what you are relaunching is going to affect those women who are in need of these certain services?
Absolutely. As we're in this post-Roe space of people being forced to go to term with their pregnancies, they're forced to release their bodily autonomy to make choices around their pregnancy. We understand that Black and brown folks being forced to remain pregnant could have deadly impacts because of our maternal mortality rates in the South, especially, but in the U.S., and as it impacts Black women.
And for people who don't understand your services specifically, how do you help someone along the way? If someone comes to you, how does that work from A to Z in terms of how you hold their hand?
Absolutely. So what you can do is go to our website at sistersong.net. You will see Birth Justice Care Fund. You'll see directory. We ask that you look through the directory of people that, birth workers that we work with. So that's full spectrum doulas, maternal mental health therapists, doula support, and also lactation consultations and consultants. In our directory, you would then choose one that is in alignment with what you need in your birth plan. You apply to the fund, and we just go through that process internally to approve you and move through with your services. We also do provide essential items such as diapers, wipes, car seats, strollers, things that you'll need immediately as you leave the hospital.
And what about those women, because we hear this all the time, women go to the doctor, their needs just aren't met. They don't feel like people are communicating the right way. They are not being heard. They're being misunderstood. They're being told in some instances, oh, you're asking too many questions. So when they come to you, how do you fulfill that need of just being heard?
Absolutely. So what we do with our Care Fund partners is we take them through a process of making sure that they are in alignment with the reproductive justice framework. We do RJ trainings with our partners. We make sure that they are centering human rights in their birth work. In order to become an exclusive partner, you have to center Black and brown folks. You have to center human rights and understand what cultural competency care looks like.
All right, I want to open up to our panel now. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Dibinga. Question for our guest this evening.
Yes, thank you so much, Leah, for the work that you're doing. I'm actually on your website, and I had a question about number 2, where it says, we believe that reproductive justice is, the first one is a human right, but then for the second one, you say about access, not choice. Could you please break that down for us?
Yeah, so access, not choice. You know, we can make choices, we can have the rights, and as we've seen in this year, rights have been revoked and removed. What we've had an issue with in Black and brown communities is actually having the access. Before Roe was overturned, we had trap laws that was restricting access. That's what we've always been focused on, is folks actually receiving access to the care they need.
All right, Dr. Malveaux.
First of all, sister, thank you for the work that you're doing to ensure that people have access to the health choices that they want. There is a whole movement, it seems to me, to redirect people from their choices so that people are being pushed to, let's say, have a child as opposed to an abortion, not have the total medical workup that they need. To what extent does money play a role in how people are being treated when they have challenges around birth choices?
Sure. I think the way we framed it is, if Serena Williams, who's a millionaire, probably a billionaire, can have maternal health issues in hospitals and be disregarded, money kind of plays a role, but not really. I feel like it's about race and racism. That's what we're faced in hospitals. That's when we're faced when we're having, when we're giving birth, when we're seeking health care that we need. I think in that context, money doesn't really play a role.
Representative Jackson.
Hey, Leah, how you doing? Appreciate the work you're doing right here in Georgia. I'm here in Georgia with you. As you well know, we're trying to do more around doula. But my question is around, how do we really, for states like Georgia, what can we do more in the rural parts of these states? I mean, when you look at Georgia, 82 counties out of 159 counties do not have an OBGYN. 61 counties out of 159 counties do not have a pediatrician. And when you look at last year numbers, where 169 women simply tried to give birth, died. 776 infants died. And so what can we do for states like Georgia, especially in the rural parts, to do more to educate those expecting mothers so that way they can have a successful pregnancy before, during, and especially after?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. It's something that Sister Song has been focused on in getting to rural areas where half of our counties are not serviced by maternal health care physicians. We are working with nonprofit organizations. We're working with maternal health care workers on the ground, doulas. And going outside of the hospital, we have to depend on ourselves at that point. Sister Song is committed to doing this work. However, we want to talk about money. That's where the money comes into play, to be able to do this grassroots organizing, to be able to do on-the-ground education. We do virtual education. We do labor support care education. But we have to have funding to be able to do that. And we love to work with state representatives and legislators to be able to move that work. I would say every citizen, legislator, representative, please get connected to the nonprofit organizations who are trying to do this work. Usually if we're Black and brown led, we don't have the funding to be able to do it, to have the capacity to do it.
Leah, what does a modern day doula look like today for someone who might not even be familiar with the concept, or perhaps they were familiar with it 10, 20 years ago? What does that involve today?
Yeah, we like to say full spectrum doula, right? Like that doula is going to work with you from preconception, all the way to if you decide to not move forward with your pregnancy and terminate. We want to talk about postpartum care. That's where 60% of maternal deaths happen is after a person has given birth or has decided to terminate pregnancy. So it's full spectrum, right? It's from preconception all the way to postpartum. They're showing up in ways that's emotional support, physical support, advocacy in hospitals. When you're not able to speak up for yourself, they're advocating for you in those hospitals.
And I was actually, that's my next question. When you talk about the hospitals, what is the relationship there? Is there tension at all? In that there seems to be tension often when Black women are in the room with a doctor by themselves. What is it that you bring, I guess, that can help with that process, and that there often is tension?
Right. We like to talk to our doulas about working with mom and birthing people around their rights in hospital rooms, knowing your rights, knowing how to understand what's being told to you by physicians. We want your advocate to be understanding of what's happening in the room and also know the rights that you do hold. We want to make sure that not just the doula is advocating, that the person who is giving birth walks away from that experience and advocate themselves so they then can share that information moving forward.
So as I said at the top, this is actually a relaunch of what you have been doing. Is this because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, or what does your relaunch involve? And how did the changing of the Roe v. Wade impact what you were doing there at all?
Yeah, so we relaunch every year. Last year, we're saying relaunch because last year we didn't have services. We only had items, and we opened it up nationally. So we spent over $450,000 of essential items. Since its inception in 2020, we've spent close to $1 million now through the fund. But the relaunch is adding Florida, who has gone from a 15-week abortion ban to a 6-week abortion ban, putting emphasis on Kentucky, who's been in the mix since about 2020. They now have a abortion ban at conception, so fully illegal to have an abortion in Kentucky. And we're adding maternal mental health therapists to the fund as well. If you're being forced to give birth, that is going to impact your mental health.
And Leah, before we go, I want to ask you this. Do you see a shift? Has there been a change with the work? What have been the changes that you have seen in terms of the way that people now approach you post the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and really post the pandemic, when you saw a lot of these issues really rise to the top?
Absolutely. I would say this year or recently, the folks that we serve and that we do this work with, they're not just accepting the award and going about their business. They're like, how do I get plugged in? How do I become an advocate as well? And so folks are not, they're walking away with the charge, with being mobilized in their own reproductive lives, but then also wanting to give back to other folks to understand, like, this care fund has helped me and this is why it's important. And I want to charge that forward to other folks. So I think people are becoming aware of the ways that their human rights are being stripped, that their bodily autonomy has been torn away, and they're done. They're tired of it.
And for people who are tired of it and want to reach out to you, are they assigned a case manager, or how do they go about getting services from your offerings?
Absolutely. Please visit our website at sistersong.net. But if you want to reach us directly, you can email birthjusticeteam@sistersong.net. But the easiest way is just to go to our website, go under Birth Justice, look at the directory, contact us, give us a call, and we'll get you connected to those services you need.
All right, Leah, thank you so much for that important, very timely information. Good to see you. A lot of resources out there for people who are in need. I also want to thank my panelists for this evening, Dr. Dibinga, Dr. Malveaux, and Representative Jackson. As always, very good seeing you. And I also want to say happy birthday to our producer here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. I didn't see cake. I'm assuming it's hidden somewhere. It should be coming, yes. We love Carol. We love Carol Gant here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we love you, our viewers, too. Thank you for being with us. Have a good night.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?